Ow! Oh, hi. This is Dr. Mike, host of the free iTunes podcast, Psychiatric Secrets Revealed with Dr. Mike, but that's not why I'm here today. This is another Saving Savvy episode, this time talking about pens. You know, if you're like me and a little bit older, you might be getting a little arthritis in your hands or just some wear and tear kind of problems, and using a pen like this becomes a real painful experience. These are probably the most common pens in existence, these stick pens. They're cheap to make, they're cheap to buy, and they really write pretty well. But for me, this is no longer a writing instrument, it's an instrument of torture. And even writing a little bit, like just a couple sentences, my hand is throbbing, it's hurting, it's really in a lot of pain. In fact, the other thing I want to show you is this form. See this form here? It's kind of a simple form. It's 4 pages, back to. This particular form I had to fill out many times during a given week. It's an evaluation form. It's really pretty simple, and a lot of the stuff is check boxes and small narratives, but this has caused me extreme agony too, because of my hand cramping. So today we're going to look at not only what pens seem to work better, at least as far as my opinion is concerned, but the science behind why, so you can make some good pen choices. And if you're aging like me and your hands are hurting, it's time to give this video a look so you can get at least a little bit of relief. No, that's not an ad for the Prime Rib Advisory Board. It's really talking about the dimensions of a pen or pencil. I want to show you something here. If you look at this pencil, you're going to recognize this as just a standard pencil. And I want to show you a different kind of pencil, one that you'll also probably recognize. That is the pencil that you probably used in 1st or 2nd grade. It's kind of a primary school pencil. I know when I was in school, I always wondered why Sister Mary Elephant gave me a fat pencil, because my hands were so much smaller. But the reality is that she wasn't trying to be cruel. A fat pencil has more surface area, and if you have more surface area to grab, it's easier to control the pencil. And that's the key with all of this, because if you have something that's slippery or thin, the way that you're going to try to control it is by grabbing it tighter. When you grab it tighter, you put more stress on those joints and you have more pain. So if we look at this 33-cent option, let's move up the ranks a bit, and I'm going to change that to a different pen, or a pen now. This is a Mont Blanc pen. Very, very expensive. I would say probably ridiculously expensive, because after all, we're talking about a plastic, resin pen. But a lot of people that use this pen think that it's a very fine writing instrument, and they feel that it's more comfortable to write with, and they feel that they have less hand strain. Why is that? Well, for the same reason as that pencil. If you look, they're both kind of thick. Now let me put that stick pen back here, and you can see that it's much thinner. Okay, now we're going fat and squishy. And if you look at all these pens here, what you're going to see is that they are definitely even thicker than the Mont Blanc down here. So you're going to get a little more surface area just based on the diameter of the pen. You'll also notice they all have these little things on the end called grippers. And that makes a tremendous difference too. Not because they're squishier and more fun to hold, although that might be a fine thing. It's because they add a little more friction between the pen and you, which means your hand slips less. If your hand slips less, you don't have to grab it as tight. If you don't have to grab it as tight, your hand's not going to hurt as much. Now the other thing that you might notice, or maybe you won't, is that we have some just throwaway pens, and we have some ones that you'd buy at maybe the office supply store, usually about $5, $6, $7. You'll also notice that the grippers are all different. These are kind of made out of rubber over here. These are more silicone-like. This one's actually made out of foam. And even the shape of the grippers are different. This one has little flat spots on it. This one just kind of curves down. This one actually kind of bulges out, as does this one. So the question you may ask yourself, is there a better design with any of these pens? And I would say that you may definitely have a preference one pen over another, just like I happen to like the color red more than I like the color pink. Now red is no better than pink, I just like it better. And you may find the same thing with these pens, but in the testing that I did using that 4-page document, they all worked equally well. I like this one here that has the flat edges just because I think it feels nicer in my hand, but my hand was no less tired or sore using this one, or any of the others. And in fact, even the cheap throwaways seem to work as well as the brand name versions. Now here's another thing to consider. This pen up front here is a fine pen, and you can see that it's definitely thicker than a stick pen, and it has this nice gripper on it, but it's not quite as thick as these jumbo pens here. And just that little difference does make a difference as far as how comfortable this pen is for someone with a lot of hand pain. Now that might be a great pen for a normal hand that just wants a comfortable pen, or it might be great if you have a little bit of hand pain, but what I have found is that this particular pen is just a little too thin. So you really want to get one of these types of pens that are a little bit thicker with the rubber. Now is it possible to get too thick? Well, I kind of have a funny pen here. Yeah, where can I put that? I'll put it up on top here. This is of course a gag pen, and yes, it is possible to get too thick because when the pen becomes too wide, it becomes clumsy to use and awkward, and then you try to compensate by grabbing it tighter that way. So you don't want to go with a super thick pen, or maybe duct tape your pen to a soup can, and you want to be careful about the diameter. Again, this one is just a little bit too thin as far as I'm concerned, but any of these, even though they range a little bit in size, seem to do the trick. Oops, I kind of misread the last title. When it said go weird, it really was referring to weird pens, not weird hosts. Okay, here we have 4 very weird looking pens. From this side to this side, this is called the Neo Bird. This is the pen again. I think this is the Evo pen, like Evolution, and this is the Ring pen. Now, even though these pens look very different from each other, they all kind of do exactly the same thing. Now, I'm going to try to step around the camera here to show you what they do with this Evo pen. So if you're using the Evo pen, your finger is forced in a straight line, your pointer, and your other 2 digits that support the pen, you have a tremendous surface area, as you can see. And so you're going to have a lot less pressure on those joints, and you're going to do a lot more of the control of the pen with just this finger here, which I guess is the way you're supposed to do it. All of these pens basically do the same thing. So same thing there too, right? Lots and lots of support. This finger is in charge, and because of that, you take a tremendous amount of pressure off your joints. Well, there's my little talk on pens. And yes, indeed, different pens really do make a difference. But don't believe some of those testimonials that you're going to see that say, for instance, that a person couldn't write at all and now they're writing chapters without any pain. I think those are, at least in my estimation, exaggerations. Of course, maybe they're true, but just not for me. So what's the bottom line for me? Well, remember this 4-page form? This is what I could write with a stick pen without going into some pain and spasm. To use just a fatter pen like the Mont Blanc, I was able to finish maybe a page of this 4-page form without going into spasm. Using one of those fat kind of gripper type pens, I could actually complete the form, although I'd be in a lot of discomfort by the time I'd reach the end. And using some of those weird pens, I was able to complete the 4-page form, not be in pain, but my hand would be tired, which for me usually means that the next step is pain. So each step really brought a significant improvement. Other things that you may want to consider are just simple things like what type of pen do you want. Some people like gel-based pens more than the ballpoint pens because they tend to write a darker line with less pressure. I tend to like ballpoints better because the gel pens run out of ink so quickly they're just inconvenient. But you might want to give those gels a look. Also, if you write just slower and a little bit bigger, you're going to find that you're going to have a lot less hand strain, and that makes a big difference too. So, happy writing, and try some of these pens to get a little bit of painful paw relief.